I'm divorcing my wife after she invited her ex for dinner and humiliated me. Now everyone's saying I'm wrong for wanting out. We have a 4-year-old girl together, and Mary and I have been married for 5 years. She was an undergraduate, and I was completing my master's degree when we first met in graduate school. I quit my job after getting married, but I had to go back to work when our baby was 6 months old since Mary's salary wasn't enough to support the three of us. Many arguments resulted from that choice since Mary believed it was disrespectful to her in some way and demonstrated my lack of confidence in her skills. I tried to persuade her for weeks that this was not related to her ability and that, in my opinion, 2 salaries would be preferable to 1. After she learned she could take some time off work to spend with our daughter, she finally warmed up to me after being angry with me for a long time. The drawback was that I ended up doing all of the housework in addition to my job. Mary says her job is more physically demanding than mine because she works as a personal trainer at a nearby gym. She believes that since I work from a desk, I should take care of the majority of the housework. Despite working longer hours, she said, home chores shouldn't be too taxing for me because I don't perform much physical activity at work. We had agreed when I first started working that she would assist with at least some duties, but every time I returned home, the job was only partially completed. She often claimed to be too tired as an excuse. We would argue about it all the time until I finally gave up on trying to get her to do her share. To prevent the frequent conflicts, I started taking care of everything myself. I started smoking because I was so stressed out. Mary also made fun of me for this, claiming that I was merely attempting to flaunt my level of stress. In addition to enduring Mary's constant criticism of my poor cooking, which was mostly her fault because she never assisted with meal preparation and I had to juggle everything between work and other responsibilities, I had been living like this for the past few years. Knowing that leaving would have an effect on our daughter's life, I stayed solely for her sake. I finally gave up and hired a maid last year, covering her money out of pocket. Mary continued to make fun of me because she believed it was a reflection of my poor housekeeping abilities. She was often contrasting me with her father, her uncles, and other men she knew who had no trouble juggling work and home. She would simply laugh it off and tell me to calm down because it was only a joke, even though I would counter that these men most likely had supportive wives. I would be much more enraged by that. We would occasionally have fun together, but the times she would irritate me were what I remembered, and I had been thinking about getting a divorce for a while. When Mary brought her ex-boyfriend, Luke, 28M, home for supper last week, I finally lost it. Her high school boyfriend, Luke, and she dated for nearly 6 years before splitting up because they were attending different universities. The first time she saw him was at the grocery store. He had just moved into our area and had asked him over for supper without even asking me. Even after our marriage, Mary's friends would frequently bring him up and make fun of her for it. So I knew these two were quite the item in high school. However, that didn't prepare me for her overly pleasant and flirtatious behavior during dinner. She was clearly attempting to irritate me, and it was succeeding. That was the second strike. Then the third strike, she began making jokes about what a messy house husband I would be and how fortunate I was to have my career as a justification. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to explain to any of my guests why I'm such a bad cook. Because Luke is a stay-at-home father of 2 boys, she continued making jokes about how much better he was at everything than I was. She joked that I would never be caught doing anything like that after telling me that Luke was actually at the grocery store purchasing ingredients for a French dish he intended to prepare for his wife. It made them both laugh a lot. She also mentioned my smoking, claiming that I was only trying to flaunt my stress levels, much like Luke, who was flawless at everything. I was fighting back tears by that point, but I chose to smile through it all because I didn't want Luke to get the pleasure of seeing me cry. I decided to leave after serving them ice cream for dessert because it was an embarrassing experience. I waited until Mary went to bed that evening. This wasn't odd because I typically clean the dishes at night and don't go to bed until she's sleeping. I packed some clothes and other essentials for our daughter and myself, booked a cab, and went to my parents' place as soon as she started snoring. By the time I arrived, it was almost midnight. I started crying as soon as my father opened the door, and I attempted to explain. My little girl, who was irritable and perplexed, started crying as a result. Since I wasn't sure whether Mary could take good care of her while I was away and I didn't want to leave her to find out, I had to bring her along. Without asking, my parents took us in, and when they put my daughter to bed, I was at last able to collect myself and tell them everything. Mary called me in a hurry the following morning to find out where I was. The worry in her voice vanished, and she burst out laughing when I told her the truth and announced that I was going to file for divorce. She advised me to just come home and stop the turmoil. I became so enraged by that I began ranting at her, accusing her of being a misogynistic, lazy, selfish, and inept woman. She finally appeared to get that I was serious when I told her that I would rather be single for the rest of my life than return to her. She began arguing with me on the phone, accusing me of exaggerating and making a huge fuss out of nothing rather than offering an apology. She asserted that there was no need to take things personally and that her jokes were merely an attempt to lighten the atmosphere around Luke. The problem is that her jokes weren't hilarious. They were nasty and cruel, especially considering that I was already making every effort. Every day, she simply continued to test my limits. She began acting like the victim when she realized that this was more than just a joke, saying that I had been plotting my departure for some time and that this was the final straw. Currently, all of our friends are texting me to tell me that I should prioritize our family over myself and not allow a few dumb jokes to ruin our marriage. Everyone keeps saying that I shouldn't ruin a home over some jokes, even though I've attempted to explain that there are a lot of things they don't know. Some people seem to feel more at ease when I posted an explanation of all I had previously discussed. Mary also noticed it and remarked that I should have notified her if these were my issues, and she would have taken care of it. I've been telling her these things for years, but it hasn't changed, so it's absurd. I just finished, and it felt like I was speaking to a wall. But following that post, she began to insist that she only needed one final shot to make it work and that she would change and get better. She convinced some of our acquaintances to try to convince me to stay by telling me that she would undoubtedly improve and make a fantastic wife. However, it irritates me that she is continually bringing up our friends. She seems to be using a deceptive and immature strategy, peer pressure, to try to talk me out of pursuing a divorce. Over the past few years, I've given her numerous opportunities to get better, but she's never done so. So I don't think she's capable of changing anymore. Even if I stayed right now, I'm confident that she would attempt to make a sincere effort for a few months before reverting to her previous conduct. I'm tired of being a single father even though I have a spouse, and I'm not getting any younger. She's hardly the ideal role model for our daughter aside from anything else. I most certainly do not want my daughter to grow up in a home where Mary's kind of behavior is accepted. For the sake of my daughter, I stayed with her for a very long time, and now I'm leaving her for the same reason. I filed for divorce 2 days ago, and she was served today. She is upset primarily because she never wanted a divorce in the first place and because I have asked to keep the house where we lived and filed for full custody of our daughter or sell it and divide the proceeds 60-40, with me receiving the larger portion. Since both of our parents gave us the house as a wedding present, I believe it is only just that I keep it or that we divide the proceeds from its sale. Because of all the labor and effort I've put in over the past few years, working full-time, raising my daughter, and handling all home chores without her assistance, I feel that I should be given the greater part. I believe the petition is quite reasonable because I'm not even asking for alimony. Even though I want a divorce, Mary claims I'm being unfair and that I shouldn't have asked for full custody because our daughter is equally hers and mine, which is reasonable, but I don't believe she's capable of being a mother. She may still visit and see her daughter whenever she wants to. I haven't attempted to take away her visiting privileges. She simply does not have her on a full-time basis. After she was served, she called and said I was being crazy and that this was a terrible overreaction. She claimed that since I was requesting full custody in the house, she already didn't agree with the divorce and had good reason to think I was being irrational. It was really embarrassing when she broke down in tears on the other end when I stated that I had thought a lot about it and that it hadn't been easy for me either. It's very clear from everything I've written that Mary isn't a particularly emotional person, so her breakdown is a huge issue. She was crying and told me, very dramatically, that she had taken everything for granted because she never thought she could bear to lose me one day. She pleaded with me to give her one final opportunity to demonstrate her ability to be a wonderful mother and wife. I had to let her know that my decision was definite and that she had come to the realization a bit too late, even though it was really difficult for me to do so. I couldn't simply return to the life. It was strange and uncomfortable for me to have to stay on the phone and try to comfort her for the following several minutes as she began to cry even more. She eventually stopped sobbing and declared that if our daughter suffered as a result, she would never be able to forgive either herself or me. We might renegotiate the terms of her custody in a few years when she's a little older, so I reassured her that this was only a temporary arrangement. I informed her that although this would be difficult for us both, we needed to strive to be strong for our daughter's sake and make the most of our circumstances. However, she quickly ended the call. And for the next few hours, I didn't hear from anyone. But all of a sudden, our friends have been contacting me once more, telling me that what I'm doing is fundamentally wrong and that I should think twice before acting. They're arguing that rather than being so heartless and self-centered, I should give it some thought since Mary is pleading for one more chance. It was only a handful at first, but now it's almost everyone we know, and I'm beginning to seriously think about changing my mind because I might be the bad guy here. I have no idea anymore. Since my wife doesn't assist me, am I the jerk for requesting a divorce and full custody of our daughter? Hello. Following a very hectic week, I'm back with an update. My lawyer and I have been getting ready for the talks. For the divorce settlement and custody dispute, Mary and I will first meet with the mediator appointed by the court. The actual divorce process doesn't worry me too much, but I'm quite anxious about the custody dispute. Everyone keeps saying that my desire for full custody is absurd, but they don't see the big picture. Our daughter spends more time with me and always has, so I know she favors me. We all know that's not how kids operate, but Mary has always attempted to build a relationship with our daughter just on her terms. Observing Mary's abrupt change into a worried mother has been one of the most annoying aspects of the previous week. She has been making false claims on social media about how much she misses her daughter and how unfair it is that she is unable to see her. She hasn't attempted, but she is welcome to come at any time. These posts have been reposted by a number of mutual acquaintances who have added their own remarks about what a loving parent she is. The truth is very different. Even our daughter's daily schedule, preferred meals, and allergies are unknown to Mary. She called us only recently to inquire if our little one still enjoys dinosaur-shaped nuggets. Due to her current space-themed food obsession, our daughter hasn't had those in more than a year. These minor details cast doubt on her capacity to serve as a main caregiver. Given that I have been actively involved in our daughter's life while Mary has only occasionally done so, my lawyer believes we have a solid case. Everything from the doctor's visits I've taken our daughter to, the parent-teacher conferences Mary has missed, and the daily schedule I've kept up while working a full-time job are all being documented. The financial side of things is a complete disaster. Some preliminary documents were sent over by Mary's lawyer, who is disputing my request for the house. They contend that it ought to be divided equally because it was a wedding present from both families. Conveniently, they fail to mention that I have been responsible for all of the upkeep, fixes, and upgrades throughout the years. The incessant barrage of messages from people who hardly understand our predicament is what's truly getting to me. Even some of Mary's gym patrons have contacted me to express their sadness and to tell me what a wonderful woman she has always been. They seem to be living in a different universe where having a charming personality at work inevitably translates into being a good spouse and mother. My father-in-law's response has been the most unexpected development. He genuinely phoned me to let me know that he understood my decision, in contrast to the majority of our friends who have sided with Mary. He disclosed that during the early years of their marriage, he and Mary's mother experienced similar problems, but he decided to stay and try to resolve them. I could tell how that worked out for him just by the resignation in his voice as he stated those words. All of this has been made possible by the tremendous support of my own parents. When I need to meet with lawyers or take care of paperwork, my dad has been watching our daughter while my mom helps me manage my financial documents. I've come to appreciate how alone and unsupported I felt in my marriage, thanks to their assistance. To be honest, there have been occasions when the tension has been too much to handle. For the first time since I moved out, I found myself reaching for a cigarette last night, but I restrained myself. I came to the realization that my smoking was not a necessity, but rather a result of my marital dissatisfaction. You get clarity in these moments, which is odd. Late at night, Mary has begun texting me lengthy texts that range from tearful pleas to irate accusations. She mentioned in her most recent message that she has been learning how to properly do washing and cooking by viewing tutorials. If it weren't so depressing, it would almost be humorous. At the age of 28, she is only now choosing to develop these fundamental life skills. Screenshots of Mary's private social media posts, in which she offers her perspective, have been sent by several mutual acquaintances. She presents herself as a loving spouse who was taken by surprise by a husband who had never expressed his displeasure. People are accusing me of being cold-hearted and speculating that I may be experiencing a midlife crisis in the comment section. That one made me laugh. It seems like I'm already experiencing a midlife crisis at the age of 35. My lawyer told me not to react to any of these provocations, but to record everything. He claims that when she engages in this type of deceptive behavior in public, it actually helps our cause. It's difficult to avoid feeling under attack from all sides, though. Observing how much more at ease our daughter has been since we relocated to my parents' place is the one thing that keeps me grounded. She appears to be happier overall and is eating and sleeping better. Naturally, she still inquires about her mother, but she isn't as worried about it as she was when we all shared a home and things were tense. Next week is the date of my first mediation session. Even though my lawyer has prepared me for this, I'm still anxious. I'm aware that it will be a challenging process because Mary's attorney has already stated that they intend to vigorously oppose the full custody request. Every day that goes by makes me feel more certain about my choice, even with all the pressure and second-guessing from others. I've been reminded of what a supportive home is like by living with my parents. For the first time in years, I'm getting enough sleep, and I'm beginning to recall my former self before I got so caught up in trying to make an impossible scenario work. As we begin the legal proceedings, the upcoming weeks will be critical. After the mediation session, I'll provide another update. But for now, I just wanted to express my gratitude to everyone who helped me with my first post. When I was most doubting myself, your remarks kept me going. Update 2, Mary paid us a visit at my parents' house today. Since my last update, which was a week and a half ago, I must admit that I was terrified of this encounter. This was most likely our final informal meeting before the actual legal process starts, as we have our mediation session in a few days. Given all of her recent passionate text messages, I anticipated this visit to be contentious. But today's events fundamentally altered my viewpoint on a number of issues. Mary was standing there when I answered the door, looking more put together than I had seen her in a long time. In addition to bringing a small gift bag for our daughter, she was dressed appropriately in a button-down shirt rather than her typical gym clothing. Her manner truly caught my attention. None of the defensiveness or animosity I'd been bracing myself for was present. Even when we were married, she seldom ever engaged in small talk with my parents. She talked to my dad about some local sports and inquired about my mom's garden. Yes. It was embarrassing, yet oddly polite. This unexpectedly normal conversation lasted for approximately 15 minutes before she asked to see our daughter. It took me a bit to answer because the way she asked, not demanded, but asked, was already so different from how she usually behaves. When we entered the living room, our daughter was playing. Her whole face brightened when she spotted Mary. "Mommy," she yelled, dropping her toys and sprinting directly into Mary's embrace. I saw their contact from the doorway. When I brought up our daughter's new space passion in the custody documents, Mary brought a new puzzle, one with spaceships, demonstrating that she had genuinely listened. Mary let our daughter take the lead in assembling it, something she had never done before, and they sat on the floor together. Typically, she attempted to regulate the activities and became irate when our daughter did not precisely follow her directions. Hearing Mary inquire about our daughter's day, her daycare friends, and her favorite aspects of living at Grandma and Grandpa's place truly got to me. She truly listened to our daughter's meandering responses about the treehouse in the backyard and the neighbor's cat. I had never witnessed her interact with our daughter in this way in all the years we had been married. At one occasion, our daughter began to tell Mary about how I prepare rocket-shaped sandwiches for her. Previously, Mary would have made a snarky remark about my culinary abilities, but now she wanted our daughter to show her how. Our daughter took her mother's instruction on how to properly assemble a rocket sandwich extremely seriously, and they spent the next 20 minutes in the kitchen. Our daughter's question about when she may see her mother again was the true turning point. I was struck by the hopeful expression on both of their faces. Mary didn't try to control the situation or make demands right away, she simply stared at me while she awaited my answer. When it was time for Mary to leave after they had finished playing, our daughter gave her a big embrace and invited her to return the next day. Mary gave me a curious look, and before I had given it much thought, I found myself nodding. Before Mary left, we had a little conversation at the door. She admitted that she had been a terrible mother thus far without displaying her customary defensiveness. She acknowledged that she realized how much she had missed by not being more involved after witnessing our daughter's growth and transformation in only these few weeks. Even though she couldn't be a better wife, she assured me she was willing to learn everything she could to become a better mother. She said she had been attending parenting classes 3 times a week and had hired a nanny to teach her how to properly care for children. Not to gloat, but to show me that she was serious about this, she displayed the diplomas on her phone. She didn't make any lofty claims about changing or try to get me to return. She simply asked me to reevaluate the complete custody agreement instead. She proposed that we arrange a timetable that would allow her to demonstrate her ability to be a responsible parent without interfering with our daughter's daily routine. I phoned my lawyer after she departed. I informed her that I would be willing to talk about a joint custody agreement and that I no longer wanted to pursue full custody. She brought up all of the records we had collected demonstrating Mary's prior lack of involvement, but I told her that even if she hadn't been a good wife, I needed to give her an opportunity to improve as a mother. Our daughter's expression of unadulterated happiness today made me realize that even though it's the proper thing to terminate my marriage, I don't have the authority to break off my daughter's relationship with her mother, especially now that Mary is finally demonstrating that she wants to be the mother our daughter deserves. Update 3. Surprisingly, the divorce talks are proceeding considerably more amicably than I had anticipated. Mary and her attorney have been extremely helpful, which I believe is her way of expressing regret for her previous actions. Our daughter's custody arrangements are still being worked out verbally and informally, but we're thinking that she should spend half of the month at her mom's house and the other half at mine. Actually, we're doing just that at the moment. In a few days, my daughter will move in with her mother. This arrangement first made me nervous, but Mary has really come through, for me. To my great relief, she has begged her father for assistance. He has been more supportive than some of my closest friends even when our marriage ended. He still gives me a call every day to see how I'm doing and sends me photos of the bedroom he's helping Mary furnish for our daughter. Additionally, the house matter has been settled more readily than I had thought. In recognition of the extra effort I had put in over the years, Mary agreed to sell it and divide the revenues 55 to 45 in my favor. This solution was actually proposed by her attorney, demonstrating their sincere desire to be fair. In addition, Mary has taken a co-parenting course, which was suggested by the mediator but not necessary. Through our new co-parenting app, which allows us to manage appointments, calendars, and our daughter's activities without having to speak to each other directly, she has been updating me on her progress. The way Mary manages our daughter's space period has been the most unexpected development. Her apartment's spare room has been converted into a miniature planetarium, complete with ceiling-mounted glow-in-the-dark stars. In order to maintain continuity between houses, she asked me for our daughter's nighttime ritual, which she has been practicing with her father. Since neither of us believes that a 2-week period without seeing either parent is healthy for our daughter, I continue to see her every few days while Mary is away. We've arranged for Wednesday supper with whoever doesn't have her that week and alternating weekends. Instead of rehashing our marital problems, the mediation sessions have been fruitful since they have focused on realistic co-parenting techniques regarding managing school schedules, healthcare decisions, and holiday plans. Mary has been actively engaging, taking notes, and posing pertinent questions. No more conflict on social media or late-night texts. We've set clear contact boundaries. Our lawyers or the co-parenting app handle everything. In a last update, Mary willingly removed all of her earlier posts regarding our predicament and said that we are resolving the matter in private for the sake of our daughter. Through all of this, her father has been an unanticipated blessing. In addition to teaching Mary how to be a parent, he also acts as a mediator between us when tensions arise. He set up a meeting with both sets of grandparents last week so we could have a reasonable conversation about our disagreements over preschool alternatives. In the end, we came up with a solution that satisfied everyone. Our daughter appears to be adjusting to the new situation rather nicely. Although we're attempting to keep things somewhat consistent by bringing her favorite stuffed animals with her when she moves between homes, she is thrilled to have 2 rooms and 2 sets of toys. Without showing any signs of concern, she stopped asking when we were returning home and instead talked about mommy's and daddy's houses. Our lawyers are taking care of the financial matters expertly. With explicit instructions on how much each of us will pay and how the funds may be utilized, we are creating a joint account especially for our daughter's costs. Mary proposed this on her own because she wanted to make sure that our financial obligations as co-parents were transparent. We have a thorough parenting plan that addresses everything from medical choices to education. Even instructions on how to manage future relationships have been included, such as meeting any possible new partners before presenting them to our child. I am aware that there are still obstacles in our way. This is only the start of our co-parenting adventure, and there will surely be setbacks. However, for the first time since it all started, I have genuine hope that we will be able to prioritize our daughter's needs and cooperate as parents even if we are unable to cooperate as spouses. The most important thing is that my daughter is happier than I have seen her in months. Both Mary and I now realize that letting go of the previous hurts is less essential than becoming good co-parents. I'm glad we were able to come to an agreement that prioritizes our daughter's welfare while still enabling us to have deep connections with her. I appreciate all of your help and guidance during this trip. When I was having self-doubt, your advice kept me going and helped me make choices that would benefit my daughter and myself. This community has been an amazing source of insight and strength.